why don't y'all just tell us where your names, where you're from, your company?
Absolutely.
Give us a little intro.
Start off. Steven Zappala. We're Zapstone Properties. Steven Zappala, Sean Stone from Long Island, New York. We've been investing in the Memphis market for almost about 18 months or so.
Yeah, it's 18 months.
And working hand in hand with the Hospitality Hub, and we have some exciting projects and properties that we're hoping to get some things moving on in the next couple months.
Awesome. So you've been working together for how long?
Us?
Steve and I have been working together about 2 years now, total, I'd say.
More than
Since
that
we had our
for
first,
Mastic, yeah.
Well, we also work together on the private side with our own personal work at home. Him being a real estate agent, me being a contractor, dates back, I'd say the last 3-4 years.
We went to grade school together. We grew up middle and high school together.
Why don't you give the whole story?
We'll give them the full story.
Go to the beginning.
So both from Levittown, New York, Seaford. Levittown is America's first suburb. A little history lesson over there is the blueprint. William
Original
Levitt.
Levitt homes.
Yep. Levitt homes.
3 bedrooms, 1 bath.
1947. William Levitt created this whole suburban blueprint for a lot of the GI Joes coming back from World War II. The first area of affordable housing. So that was MacArthur High School is the school we went to, is the main school district in Levittown. So talk about an affordable housing thing that's cool. I never put the two and two together on that end of things.
Just clicking right now.
So we've known each other for 25 something years or so.
Steve's mother was my first grade school teacher.
Yes.
So I met you in first grade.
East Broadway Elementary. Oh, was it Seaman at that?
It was East Broadway, and I remember you came in and you taught us how to draw a house without ever crossing the line.
Well, Mom used to
On a
bring me into
chalkboard.
the classes.
Like a square house, I remember that.
That was on the top.
So-
Look at that.
And then I was working in a deli as a kid, and then I used to make your mom's cold cuts
That's
for
it.
everybody.
So neat.
Fred's Deli.
Yeah.
Getting
New
our
York,
bacon
yep,
and eggs.
delis.
Bacon and eggs.
Yep, I worked in a deli for 10 years, so.
Yes. Still standing too. One of the best delis in Levittown.
In
if
Levittown,
anybody's
yeah.
going out there.
What's
So-
it like working with your best friend?
It's awesome
a
having that connection that we've had for so long. I mean, it's not like somebody we just met over the last couple of years or so. So the fact that we knew each other, it allowed getting in bed with each other and the business standpoint a lot more easier. Is that we've known our track records, our histories.
And having, not to cut you off or anything, but having partners can be very testing.
Yeah, for
Your
sure.
energies need to align. You have to read each other. So we're really like yin and yang. So you want to be partners with somebody that can do what you can't. So he does everything I can't, and I'm not saying that you can't do what I can do, but we just have different experiences that align for this, that work really well. So, but it's really just about the energies.
Why real estate? Like, what was the key into the door for that?
What's your
Wait, what?
I know what got me into real estate, but what got you into real estate?
So I've always had a love for real estate. I can pull my pants down right now, but I have Mr. Monopoly tattooed on my thigh. I swear to God, I used to love that game growing up. So I've always loved the aspect of buying and selling, and my parents will tell me I've always wanted to play that game growing up. I got into sales after I graduated high school. So I was in the corporate sales world for about a decade. A good friend of mine, Joshua, as mentioned before, got his real estate license, was telling me, get your license. So I got my license. I was working part-time on my license, then full-time I was working for an elevator company doing new construction sales. Fell in love with the real estate space. I had owned a house that was kind of like a triplex at the time that I bought, so I was managing tenants while living there, while still in that corporate world. Then getting into real estate as an agent side just gave me more opportunities and access to potential investment properties. Sean always had a love to get into it. He was always a mover and a shaker in terms of him starting his own electrician business, and just kind of worked out in terms of alignment, timing, an opportunity presented itself with a first duplex that we bought out in Long Island, and then it's just kind of completely snowballed into the exciting stuff that we're doing right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have very similar stories because basically, shout out to my dad, so I'm third generation electrician. So I was a union electrician. My grandfather was in World War II. He's an airplane mechanic at the original Grumman on Long Island. So, but really my dad got me, I always wanted to be my dad. So, so it was just seeing him work every single day. So my thing is in 07 when the market crashed, my father got laid off, which was really hard on the family. So I knew right away that if I ever got into the trade, which I did, and then I followed him, my uncles, shout out to all my uncles and cousins, my brother's an architect, so we've always been around building and construction and whatnot. But my first house was a duplex. So I house hacked, lived in half and stuff. So, but I'm here and we made it. We started our business. So I wanted to do that for him, put my name on it, which is his name. And just making sure. I have a son, so I'm hoping my son will carry it on one day. But that's what, I've always been drawn to real estate. So I just wanted to, it's weird because I had a saying when I was 25, I always said 5 by 35. I wanted 5 properties by 35 years old because I just wanted to show my dad. That was it, that I could.
Yeah,
And,
that's so heartwarming.
Yeah, well, my dad, if you knew my dad, it's a little different. Shout out to Roy Stone, my son's Trip Roy.
That's beautiful.
But I wanted to show him that we could.
Yeah, and it sounds like both y'all got like a connection going back to like childhood almost when it comes to with the Monopoly, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
And everything. So now that you've been doing it for a while, right? You kind of got your footing. Give me some pros and cons. Like what's the best part about being in real estate, and then like what's the absolute worst?
Being a landlord, being an investor, you know, first of all, there's a lot of pros and cons. People have different viewpoints on it, but it's anything but passive. People think, oh, I'm going to buy rental properties. It's just money coming in every single month. You know, people don't realize all the other intangibles and things that come into play with managing a portfolio. You have to be, you know, very hands-on. You can be hands-off, but you know, portfolio is not going to run properly. You're going to be running into a myriad of issues on that end. So I guess, you know, for both of us in terms of building and growing, and especially doing it at the pace that we have been as of late, we've had, you know, a lot of different learning experiences about do's, don'ts, and just kind of just writing that blueprint from there. And again, partnering up with people who know your flaws. I know my flaws, I know what I'm strong at. And, you know, we kind of really and let the other person do it. Like there's some times where, you know.
We had to learn that.
Yeah.
We had to learn that, how to let the other person do their job, not overstep. Everybody has a role, so you have to do your job, do your role, and hold each other accountable. Is a good way to
I
look
don't even want
at
to
it.
know, like, don't even call me Sean. I tell, like,
I
listen,
don't.
like, I don't need your opinion
don't
on choosing
anymore.
this or that. Like, I have full trust
But when
in
it
him.
comes to placing and like these connections, which is what I love about Steve the most, because we're here because of you, and you guys connecting, and now I get to reap the benefits of meeting you, and you guys are amazing.
Put your own stamp on everything.
Put
as
our
well.
own stamp on it, but real estate's very rewarding, you know? Business is very rewarding, but this is just a different type of rewarding. This is just serving a different purpose, and I never expected myself to, my vision wasn't here, and now it is, if that makes sense.
Correct.
I don't
never
know how to
thought we'd
explain
be
it.
out here and
It's very surreal, you know, that we get to help now
Yeah.
is different, you know?
And that's perfect. So I guess the next question for that is, how do you know me and how do you know the hub? What's our connection?
You know what? When I looked at some of the questions before, I was like, I don't even know
I do
how we
actually.
first connected. So I'm going to take a
You do.
guess.
Do it.
I'm going to take a guess that
Like a
it
funny
could have
story.
been through Effie,
No.
Greg.
No.
Oh, the first tenant that we placed was the first tenant we placed together, Greg?
First
or no?
tenant we placed.
Yes.
But I met you, and I was telling you this earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So I get a list like at the end of every Friday. It's like, here's all these landlords are like, okay, you could work with them, whatever. And you know, like when you're working in a professional setting, typically you try to present yourself in a very like, I know what I'm doing type of way. For whatever reason, when I called you about Greg, I remember it was on a Friday, and it was just one of those days where like everything went wrong, and I was just stressed out, and I said a curse word, which I won't repeat now. You started laughing on the phone, and in my head, I'm like, thank God, this guy's not like, you know what I mean? Because you gotta feel it out a little bit. Some people are like, you just gotta go straight to business. Other people are like, okay, this guy's personable, you know, he's not gonna get angry that I just cursed. And then as soon as I heard that, saw the property, went to Effie with Greg.
Yep.
And Greg has a podcast with us, but one thing about Greg's background is that he went to 201 and was incarcerated for burning down an apartment complex. So I can imagine when Steven runs the background and sees that, it's like, oh, what's going on here? But he didn't just shut it out. He didn't send me an email and be like, hey, this is not gonna work out, so-and-so, like, good luck finding him somewhere else to go. He called me up and he was like, hey, what am I looking at on this background? And like, could you talk to me about who this person is? Because obviously it's a bit concerning. And in our line of work, you know, working with this population of individuals experiencing homelessness, you deal with a lot of rejection. I mean, just point blank period. There's a lot of rejection before you even get to the door. So to hear him not immediately push that off to the side and be like, who is this person? Was really heartwarming and really engaging to me, because it's like, oh, like you actually care that they have lives, that they are exiting something extremely traumatic. And then we sent over some stuff about Greg, about his story, who he was. You know, Greg had a lot of addiction issues at the time. He had a child he wasn't able to see. By the time he met Steven and was in our program, he was a year sober, working the job, getting another job, getting a car, all these beautiful things. And so when Steven took the time to be like, okay, I'm not going to look at what you did 3 years ago, what are you at now? And then to put that effort and that care towards the individual and not just the rental payment was huge. So as soon as I heard that, I probably blew up your phone nonstop for maybe like 6 weeks.
Considerable
I
amount
remember
of
him
units
telling me,
since,
I'm talking to this guy, Matt, this and that. I'm like, who's your new friend?
So, is he an investor too?
Yeah, I'm like, where is he from? But then that's like was my first segue into learning about you guys too.
Yeah.
Right, so that was it. Okay, I knew it was Greg. I
It was
figured
great.
that.
It was great. But typically, I'll tell you, like with landlords, like not that like I don't have a relationship with them, but it's very seldom that it goes beyond just like can you put someone in a unit and can they pay?
Yep.
You know, like they don't
Right.
really care about the
More
population.
the background.
Do they have a voucher? Can they pay the rent? All of that kind of stuff, which I get. You know, that's just is what it is. It's business. But to take it to that next level of like, okay, what's this person's story?
Correct.
That to me was like an immediate, okay, this guy kind of sees what we're doing, and it's like aligning with the vision that we have to actually assist people moving forward, which was really cool to see. And something I, again, run into super seldom. But a part of that, and one of the things I'm always interested from your perspective on, is like, what has it been like jumping into our world? You know what I mean? Like, what has it been
Shell
like?
shock.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Shocking, yeah.
Really?
This
Really?
is,
Oh, yeah.
you know, we grew up middle class.
suburban America.
Suburban America,
Yeah.
Long
You know?
Island. So, you know, we do not see, first of all, coming out to, let's talk about like just riding around Memphis for the first time. You know, when we started investing
off
out
the
here,
plane
you
the
know, we
first
bought
time.
some properties
bought before
without seeing
coming.
them. You know,
So-
seeing obviously like sight
The
unseen,
first couple,
seeing
yeah.
pictures, we had engineer reports and everything, but actually like touching down at the airport, we drove
Getting
to,
in the car, going to
before you came on Castalia,
Yeah.
Josh and Roe, drove to a 7-unit that we have in Castalia Heights, and just driving through that area, and we're, you know, wow, this is a
Now
completely.
we're from New York, remember? So I worked with Con Edison for a little bit, which is Manhattan, Harlem, the Bronx,
in the boroughs.
In the boroughs, we've been shot at, piss cans thrown at us, all kinds. I used to work nights. I would work nights, do my business during the day, but crazy stuff. Total. I'll go there tomorrow. Than what I experienced first time off the plane, not knowing the area, knowing where to go, learning the zip codes, just total shell shock. You know, it's a different. Even that, it's just different environments. It's different way they look at you. It's different comfort levels.
It's a totally different culture.
It's a total different culture.
And I've, not knowing much of your background and getting into all of that, I was curious why Memphis, especially without being here and without seeing it before purchasing.
Yeah.
What made you, as a New Yorker,
Great
go?
question.
Yeah. So I mentioned Rosanna, that's my girlfriend. So she had started wholesaling real estate out here, picking up distressed properties, and then bringing an investor to the table and making a small finder's fee. So she had some success in this market doing it virtually from Long Island.
Yeah.
So Josh,
She's incredible,
and
by the
Sean,
way.
she is. She's got about 17 single families that she owns herself out here.
Wow.
Give her a shout out. Come on
Yeah,
now. Give her
Rosanna
a
Keys
little
for
shout
Equity is
out.
the name of her company. What's up, babe? So we're actually going to dinner tonight, all
Yeah.
at the Pyramid. So they're doing they're
great.
very big
Yes.
in the single family space. They work a lot with MHA, the VA on that end. They have a beautiful model and footprint that they do. So really, it was all from her. She had this original success, and we said follow the success. And
And
we tried to
ironically, I
replicate
was
it.
reading books and Bigger Pockets books and real estate. Shout out Brandon Turner.
Yep.
And basically, I was starting to read about out-of-state investing because we're from New York. So New York is a blue state, and it's very not landlord tenant
yes.
friendly.
It's
Yeah.
tough to invest
So
out there.
you know, again, this started out in a different direction. It's a business investment originally. Now I have a new thought process with you guys for sure.
Well, walk us through it.
Yeah, what has been that process of transitioning into that new mindset?
Well, you can speak to it. I
It's
mean, you
been-
should have
it's
seen
been,
what we were talking about in the car, and just, you know,
yeah.
I came here and
You
I
need to, like,
witnessed
take a
this
moment.
last time, so like he was like, I need to take a beat for a minute
Yeah,
to
it's
really
because
know.
you know one of the good. It's about you got people attract people, right? Yeah. So like minded sets and whatnot, but it's really hard to even collect my thoughts on it, to be honest with you. You know, so it's
So we spoke about it earlier. I mean,
we were at the property together.
Yeah, and he just mentioned like hearing about it, but like seeing it in person is just like two separate worlds.
It's just exciting to be able to like jump in and know that we're the ones that can help facilitate homes. Like it's not again, it started out as an investment. Once you flip that mental switch and you're thinking about people's homes with kids, I have 3 kids.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay, you
my wife,
mentioned
Shaylee Tatum, Tripp, love you guys, Nicole. But they, and I wouldn't be here without my wife being home with those kids right now, you know, to do this and allow me to go out. She's out of her mind for what she's allowed me to do, you know? So building my business from nothing, the amount of time I spent on that, and then believing in me with this and trusting and knowing Steve, all of us growing up together, she knows, you know, for us to be able to do this is just tremendous now.
Sean has put off putting a dormer on his house for the last 2 years because we can do what we're doing out in Memphis.
Yeah.
So thank you, Nicole.
Yeah,
for
my
allowing
wife
us.
has allowed me to. So a little bit of backstory. We were pregnant, and my daughter was 6 months old, and I decided to leave Con Edison, the most safe job, union job you could have. I went through Local 25 and Con Edison for 9 years, and I tried going to your wife saying, you know what, I'm just gonna leave 150 grand a year to just you know what, you believe me, great. Like she never hesitated. She knows that. But again, you know, I put the work in, and she's had my back the whole way. So, but that was a little crazy, you know.
Yeah.
So she believed in that crazy, and she's always known that we've always been willing to sacrifice to do what we wanted to do, you know. So we're getting to those points now. But she still put our own personal home and everything with our children, our forever home, on hold so that we could go and do what
we're
we
doing out here.
felt we needed to do.
Yeah, what does that feel like? Because I think I've experienced it more with you, because obviously you and I have communicated way more, and we'll continue to communicate now that we've met each other finally.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like one of the cool things that I wanted to talk about with you was like, when we had originally started talking, it was like getting people into units, right? And then when you came down here, it was like something switched in your brain where you're like, wait, we could do this way, and this could help these people. And then most recently, we won't air it out with this, but we're working on a joint venture for like a possible new program, which we're super excited about. But that happened because you brought up in a meeting that we met earlier where we were talking about just how affordable it was and like what the tenant space would look like. To the first thing he goes, so wait, what happens if they can't pay? And I was like, well, you're doing month-to-month leases, which is great, but that just means they won't get evicted, but they'll probably return to the population, utilize shelter, utilize a room and house. And it, like, you could see it visibly didn't sit well with you. And like, in my mind, I'm like, wow, like that is just like a shift. And it was really cool to see. But like, what's that been like for you, switching that mode?
Yeah, I mean, within the last 2 weeks, we thought we were going one way, and now we just completely pivoted, and it's going another way. And this way makes sense, and I hope it is able to work out in terms of, you know, with this pilot program that we're looking to do. But I remember like seeing, especially we work with a lot of not just Hospitality Hub. You know, we work with Catholic Charities, MHA. We work with you know, a lot of different out Memphis. We work with a lot of different programs to place in some of our units. So, you know, you see the amount of money that's thrown, sometimes double securities in and out, where I kind of came to you, I was like, listen, there's a lot of funds that are wasted, whereas like what if we did something with some sort of master lease or anything that you guys can save some money in an effort, and with all that take that extra money to place more people. So like we're looking at this not just on a business standpoint, as like a holistic art for the greater good of everybody. And obviously, you know, we're all here to run a business as well, but like this truly is making the right change, and you know, we are extremely excited and hopeful, and we look forward to hopefully, you know.
Just to touch on that in a moment, but our meeting at that property before that we were looking at everything, just to bring 3 or 4 different groups together,
organizations,
without you know, to make this type of thing happen, it's just,
Who are
to me, it was blowing my
equally
mind.
excited,
You know,
and
because this would be extremely difficult back home. There would not be people open to this type of discussion where we're from.
That's the issue with the social world sometimes. You know, we talked about that.
NIMBY, you know, not my backyard. You know, everybody, especially Long Island, you know,
Looks
higher
good from Long Island.
higher area.
You know?
Nobody wants to deal with any of that back home. But you know, so you know, everybody wants to help individuals in need, and then when it comes to a potential opportunity where, you know, it could be a shelter right down the block from a, you know, middle to high income community, and then next thing you know, you got everybody from that same community going to all the boards, going to all the meetings, saying no, I don't want crime, I don't want this, I don't want that.
But also, a lot of people say they want to help, and then when they have the opportunity, do you show up?
That's it.
You know, so
Strong up's 90% of it.
that's something that you got to do. You know, as a leader, we're both leaders. We have people responsible for us, but leaders pull people towards them. Bosses just push people around. So we're trying to pull this solid energy. You know.
Yeah.
That's a Dan Martell quote. Sorry if I'm stealing that,
Oh,
but it's a phenomenal quote.
I wouldn't
And
know
that's,
that.
you know, so like we're trying to set an example here, and your standard is what you're going to get. I'm a big standard guy with all my men back home. You know, I have young men that I have to lead. I want them to see an example. I have kids that I'm trying to, you know, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do it right with a positive standard. You know, not slumlord either. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
so when we do these turns, we want to work together for the color schemes. I feel so calm here.
Because of the
I said
blue?
to you, I'm like, why am I
Yeah.
like, why am I
Trauma
so?
Informed
Yeah,
design.
He loves
everywhere we
butterflies. He
go,
loves
I'm like,
butterflies.
so like my wheels are turning, and I know we're joking about it,
No,
but
it's
it's just
true.
been really eye-opening because I'm like, I want to change how we're, you know, presenting the units to people too.
Yes. I didn't
Yeah.
think
It's
that.
very calming here. Like I don't want to leave. You
That
know.
was a big thing during COVID. I wasn't here, but we spearheaded this movement of making trauma-informed design a centerpiece for all of our guests, because a lot of the time, you know, when you go into a doctor's office, sometimes you're in a compromised situation, you might feel some static in the white walls and the, you know,
Right.
So
not
it's
very
awful.
warm. It's not very welcoming, and we wanted to divert from that. So I'm glad that you noticed and that it's.
And I didn't know, it was weird because I'm like, why am I getting like emotional? You know, I'm like, why am I
mentioned
so
that. How
calm? I'm like, this is so eye-opening, you know?
Yeah.
Very
The
calm.
power of architecture and design.
So I
like
want,
how that
I
can
want
truly
ours
affect.
to be, now you can see that, like
Yeah.
the colors, because we've been back and forth on existing properties outside of this discussion on what we should do and making decisions and having a standard and documenting everything as we go with systems. And but I want to be able to provide this type of environment.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's exactly what you just said. I mean, like we brought out that initiative, but like as a person that was here when we were out in that small little unit, meet with people out on the street, or you know, I was on outreach at the time, going out under the bridges and stuff like that. To see people decompress just solely for the fact that there's like tall ceilings and the walls are blue, and you're not being called number 55. Come up, like who wants to be called a number and treated like a
Right.
number? When a lot of our population is treated like that daily. So there's a statistic: average individual experiencing homelessness is treated as invisible 7 times daily. Meaning like they get walked past, they ask a question, no one wants to talk to them. They're treated just kind of like they're thrown away or the other. And so when they come to our doors and the things that we create in the future, the exact opposite is the mission. I want you to walk in and feel seen, heard, respected, and understood, because you can't go anywhere else unless you start from that point. If you don't start from that point, all the other work that you put into is going to fall to the wayside because that individual does not feel empowered to actually become a person and to get better. And it's something we build in the fabric of everything, and something that I'm super proud of, and I'm glad that you noticed. And
Yeah.
we are joking about, but it really
It's hard
is
not
true.
to notice.
No, yeah.
I didn't know what was happening. You know?
Just wave.
I'm like, what is this like? Yeah, like it was
You're
like,
right.
wow.
Like think about all the systems and processes that you put in place for that. For you're not just a number. Like you mentioned, like this is what he's wearing. You can walk up to him and just say, oh, hey,
Right.
how you doing, Sean? And the architecture. And think about now all of the other shelters all around the U.S. that maybe don't know this types of psychological stuff that can help. That that information can be shared and could be replicated out there just by making a couple small changes on that end of things. So like there's so many small little pieces that can all be put together in the puzzle to really make that greater change in what you guys are doing in this facility and here.
And on that topic, one thing I was curious to talk to y'all about was like y'all's individual experience with homelessness, because it's one of those things where like if you don't have to interact with it, you probably don't know much about it. But I was always curious because I don't know if the passion y'all are feeling is because this reminds you of something from back home, or if it's situated like you talked about your children, like having children really puts everything in a different perspective.
Yeah,
But
totally.
is homelessness something that y'all even engaged with, like kind of prior to our relationship starting?
For myself, I would, fortunate, no, not my family or anybody around on that end of things. You hear stories and things of that nature. I think that over the last, some Long Island and investing over the last couple of years, speaking to individuals, especially who are through voucher programs or going through subsidy, and actually having them share their story to you when, let's say security deposit is $1,100 and somebody's saying, I have $300 in my bank account right now, I'm not working at the moment, and just like putting that perspective is a completely different thing that, we can't fathom. We've never seen that. Or just, oh my God, I got 2 kids. My daughter's sick right now. I just got laid off because I don't have.
All 3 of my kids.
I'm not able to shower to
get a place to live. It would just be
so
insane.
That is what's seen it, and you could speak to anything on your.
My
end.
experience was just, when I went to Manhattan, culture shock. After I left Local 25, and then I went into Manhattan and I'm in Harlem. I just thrusted into Harlem. Never been in a city in my life.
Oh wow.
And before, I mean, I'm a Long Island guy.
Yeah.
There's a saying in Long Island, Suffolk County guys don't go to Nassau, Nassau doesn't go to
Right.
Suffolk, Long Islanders don't go to the city, and vice versa. COVID changed all that, but
Oh, okay.
I remember going into Harlem being like, holy mother, this is wild. You know, this is, it was, I got off the train day one, Con Edison, there's a 4-year-old kid, maybe, if he was lucky to be 4. I'm walking up the steps of the subway, and this kid's looking at me, and I'm looking around, I'm like, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, where is this kid's parent?
Yeah.
Not knowing, just completely ignorant. And I look at the kid, and the kid's looking at me. What are you looking at? It's 4 years, like 4 years old. Yeah.
Really?
And I was like, oh my gosh, you know? I'm like, nothing, you know? And I just
Nothing.
and I just booked it, and then that was eye-opening because then I learned Harlem, and everyone's like, oh, Harlem's changing. Harlem's great. You know, Harlem's looking good. I'm like, where?
Yeah.
You know, I'm a sheltered. People in Long Island have nothing, no gripes in Long Island, but there's a lot of complaining in Long Island. You know, so let's be realistic, people. You're in $1 million homes. All right. If you have a problem, it's on you. You need to change yourself. You know. So I don't want to hear any of that. It's like, listen, if you got something going on, what are we complaining about? You know what I mean? So if you want to change something, you have every opportunity to change something. If you live on Long Island and you have a problem in New York, it's you. You're the problem. You know.
Oh, I think that's so true. I mean, every city can probably speak to it, but the suburbs of the surrounding suburbs of the city, we have, multiple that have multi-million-dollar homes. It's
Right.
the same there's the same in Memphis as well, but those outside homes are just like, Memphis is so terrible and it's so violent and all these issues, and it's like, well, what are you doing to help?
They're on their
change these
keyboard typing
Right.
this, and then when there's a
Yeah,
change that can happen,
Right.
they're the one,
And again, it's
Not
about
everybody,
showing up.
not,
so
know,
if you
not
have
just,
an
but,
opportunity to show
yes.
up, are you going to show up?
Yeah.
You know. So
Yep.
it's just one of those things.
It'll blow your. I mean, that happens all the time. I mean, I'm talking. I got a guy from the suburbs. Like I grew up in Germantown for a large portion of my life, which is a suburb here. And boy, like the introduction to Memphis as a culture, doing outreach with individuals experiencing homelessness. Like I got called so many creative names.
Right, creative.
Yeah, only one of them made me cry. I went home and I was like, that was a gut shot for sure. But no, it always interests me because, like I said, homelessness is like, unless you're dealing with it or unless you know someone that's dealing with it, it's always like, it's there, but it's like I don't really see it. So like, what do I really care about it? To be honest with you, and it's just so interesting to me that you guys go from you're doing all these deals, you're in the business, and then all of a sudden it's like you're the one coming to me being like, wait, this would be a good idea to program this way. And do you think that's something that will echo like continuously for y'all? Like I know outside of us, like is this like what are your thoughts on
Well, our focus is Memphis right now, for sure. To go backwards, by the way, just a little bit with our duplex on Island, we went from a duplex front to back, not side to side.
front to
all
back
right?
duplex.
He's very specific.
Shotgun
So, but we went from that to a 14 unit.
Oh,
So like
In the medical
it was
district,
a big wild
yeah.
jump. And by the way, we ended up with a tent city in our backyard in our first ever experience. That was if I'm thinking about it now,
In
that's really our
Beach,
first
yeah.
experience with homelessness because we ended up with 20 people in our backyard in tents.
Oh,
Right.
So back at the duplex
To-
in Long Island,
So
went
like we
through
were
rapid
working with
rehousing.
programs that they facilitated a young lady out of the shelter, and I ended up driving her to a hotel and removing her from the property politically and giving
Yep.
her
We had to pay for the hotel.
some cash for keys.
Yep.
We paid for a hotel, and because what she did was she moved in, and then she brought everybody from the shelter. This is our first experience in real estate, owning a duplex. Then they ruined all the plumbing, they ruined the apartment, we had to redo everything. But bigger than that, we're looking at all the people back there, and it's like, what?
culture.
What is
Yeah.
going on? How did all these people end up here?
Yeah.
And that was really our first culture shock
With dealing with vouchers,
with
subsidy
homelessness,
companies, and things.
If that was the first experience, how were you so engaged with it? I'm not, and I
Yeah.
love that you were. And thank God.
because
but
it's
it
an
just
experience.
Because
Did it-
after
that didn't
that,
scare you away?
after that,
No.
after that we did
No.
with rapid rehousing, which is a subsidy out there who bring people from shelter and need. They run.
Granted,
an
it's
incredible-
emotional in the moment, but
Yeah, they run an incredible ship at Long Island, and they're able to fill tenants right now. K.I.N.D in the back has been wonderful.
She's been fantastic.
A wonderful
we've grown to
tenant,
know
young
these
lady
people,
with a
you know?
daughter, a son, and our front unit was there for a while. She was just with the Department
almost
of Social
2 years
Services.
she was
yeah.
there, and
obviously
not an issue after that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like we could have ran at that point in time, but I don't know. We just honestly we never even had a discussion about
That's
like
interesting.
redirecting.
I didn't
To be
know.
honest, it's a great question. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just continue on.
Yeah, because I mean, encampments is like what we kind of call them around here because they'll build up very quickly, and so like we
You
go
were
out there all
telling
the
us
time.
about there's a structure and a hierarchy to these.
Yeah, they elect mayors. You know,
Yeah.
like we go there. You can only speak with one individual. That individual tells everyone else who you are. If they want to speak with you, then they give them the okay to come back. I mean, it's literally it's like its own society.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that y'all had kind of dealt with that at one of your let alone your first 14 unit one after you go from a duplex to an apartment building.
No, the tents didn't happen in the 14 year. That was in Long
Oh,
Island.
That was in Long Island before
that
we
was-
came here.
Yes, that's why I tried to
Yeah,
specify.
that's why I just realized I'm like
Yeah,
that's
no,
really
no.
you know relating back to the first question of the homelessness exposure. You know, we were exposed the hard way.
Yeah.
But we, with that, parlayed that in purchasing some of the properties out here, still looking to go the subsidy route of, dealing with a lot of these, companies in which potentially it could be individuals who are going through the same situations as, that tenant did. So,
Wow.
And at this point in time, we wouldn't even discuss looking at anything on Long Island. You know?
No, no one blames you.
Our focus is
focus
Memphis.
and passion is out
we're
here.
not looking out here.
Wow.
There's a
You know,
tremendous amount
we
of
enjoy
opportunity.
coming out once a quarter, checking on everything, getting this, meeting you guys. You know,
Yeah.
We got so much upside out here. I mean, it's there in Long Island.
when we leave, we look forward to coming back.
Yeah,
You
That's
know,
awesome.
so
That's good to hear.
but just where Memphis is going, I think. I mean, we
Yeah.
talked
Memphis
to-
is an exciting area, man. There's a lot of industrial revolution going on out here. I'm constantly reading. You know, I won't touch on anything specifically.
I think just appreciation play. So, for instance, Long Island, let's say average salary is $150,000 for a couple. Houses
not
are
more.
typically going,
Yeah.
if not
That's
more.
probably
Houses are
individually
typically
based,
going. An
yeah.
average house is going for $600,000, maybe $700,000 out here. So you're talking about a 4x multiple in terms of household income to price points.
Yeah.
Out here, let's say an average income for a household is maybe $50,000 or so,
50 to
somewhere in that ballpark. Single-family homes are going for $100,000.
Right.
Sometimes 70, depending on different pockets, 75 to 150. So you're looking at a 2.25x multiple. So if you look at other areas, I think that there's more opportunity for appreciation in the Memphis area just because of income-wise compared to comparison with Long Island. I mean, there's only so much. How much money can be put towards your income towards housing?
Yeah.
There's only so much. So there is a more affordability factor in Memphis. Your taxes are a lot lower compared to Long Island.
Absolutely.
There needs to be. We need to continue to facilitate job growth, and not just in hourly wages, lower income. We need more middle income, that $50,000 to $100,000 salary points out
Bridge the
here to
gaps.
facilitate more owner occupancy. I mean, you guys are in a very high investor, not owner occupied state, in which I think 45 to 50% of the single families are owned by entities or investors or so. So, in order to, you need to kind of pivot that to give individuals to start careers and be able to work their way up. So they're starting businesses, employing people, and they're the ones who are purchasing properties, and that increases property value everywhere.
Right.
So that's what Memphis needs, and we see that as an opportunity. As wow, there is such a growing opportunity in this potential pocket, given what it has to offer. So there's no state tax out here. You got a good climate out here. There's a lot of benefits. Rich in arts and entertainment. You got great water. You got lower electricity utility costs. You got the airport. You got all cargo and transportation companies. So I mean, there's what you guys are building out.
You got Elon Musk coming here.
Elon Musk coming in 109.
Guy catches rockets.
Yeah.
Catches them.
Yeah, there's
amazing.
definitely a lot of opportunity.
Correct.
It was funny. I mean, it's hilarious hearing people from the outside saying that because I was
Yeah.
in a meeting not even a week and a half ago where essentially we ran through these statistics and we ranked last in virtually all of them. Some were good, some were bad. But I was meeting with an individual I work with. I won't name him just in case. But he was just like really down about it. He was like, dude, I'm putting forth all this effort. I'm seeing these wins here, but at the same time, it's like I feel like I'm fighting against like God, basically. I was like, to be honest with you, man, like, you might as well flip that viewpoint and like we have nowhere else to go but up. Like we can't make a wrong decision because we're already in last place for a lot of things. But it's interesting to hear like the perspective of someone from the outside because you see a lot of potential. It sounds like,
We do.
so nice.
Oh, we're
which is refreshing,
Yeah.
refreshing to hear to say the least.
Yes.
Because we had a lot of like here's this issue, we got to solve it. Here's this issue, got to solve it. Here's the reason why we can't solve it. But to hear it be like, oh wait, like there's actually a lot of marketable value in Memphis.
Yep.
It's really nice to hear, just because it's again we have our downs for sure. And as a guy that like grew up here, it's been interesting to really ingratiate myself into like a different portion of what Memphis is, and to see it from a different light. Because I probably would have been one of those people that was like, Memphis is disgusting. You know, like I'm sure I really didn't talk all that well about it, like when I was at college, or people were like, "Oh, you're from Memphis." I'm just like, "Yeah,
It's a bad rap. Yeah.
it does."
You have negative
For no
connotation
reason.
on it, and
Right.
you know, you see
certain areas just they get their reputations, you
Yep.
know, and it's
Yeah.
hard to break reputations. It's just like being in high school, a bunch of kids, you know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, we're on the outside group. It feels like
Yeah.
a lot of the
media
time.
just shoots, you know, crime,
just-
crime,
you just
crime,
need a couple
and that's
people
what
to build upon,
everybody's
though.
mentality is.
Right.
But you know, show this outside, show this,
is
show what you guys
incredible.
are
This
building.
facility
See,
is
you know, there's
incredible.
commercial, development going all around. Like that's what needs to be showed of all, you know, the wins, the good story, and that's
you
what.
just need some momentum. That's what these people need. They just need a little momentum. They just need one person, you know. So just I relate everything back to my. It's just the way my mind works. But I get a lot of young men that come in that I find from other companies that have been passed along, and I look at it this way. It's totally relatable. Give the guy a shot. You know, some of my mechanics are guys that work for companies for 2 years. They've just been called helpers. And then they come to me, they're junior mechanics and their mechanic skill level. They just haven't been given their opportunity.
Right.
You find the diamonds in the rough. It's about finding the people and then being consistent. And
Showing
just
up.
find the momentum, you know?
Sean gives, you know, in his, just to speak about your company, he gives 401ks, life insurance, PTO, like he gives like bonuses and everything. Like he really goes above and beyond for his mechanics in the field and really giving them that shot to create their own opportunity, and whether or not they spin off and open up something of their own or they rise through
And
the ranks.
honestly, we weren't I'm not the smartest guy in the room for that at some times, but I always believe if you put the people first. So if my guys are watching this, you guys know, they already know. You know, there's a paddle for everybody's ass, but at the same time, hold yourselves accountable, because this is, I'm here to give back, you know? I like to give back. It makes me feel it's the right thing to do.
Right.
I grew up in a union where you're just a number. Like going back to that, you know, my number is, and I still remember the, I won't say the number, but you know, it's funny because I was approached by the union and I said that God himself couldn't come down here and make me turn my men union when I can do better for them.
Yeah.
There's a reason why I'm here. I'm not going to have these young men become, you know, sheep.
Yeah.
And that's no disrespect to my father or my family or anybody else, but I can do it better.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to provide and make sure these kids are taken care of. Because there's a lot of young men and they're on the fence. They might go left or right, you know?
Right.
And that's how I relate this, and that's why it means so much to me here.
Yes.
Because I can see it, the same faces, you know?
I think that
Yes.
it's so incredible that both of you, you know, you're involved in a space that can be very money hungry and it can be very financially oriented and not really care about the person. And you just said something that was very true to us, which is it takes one person. And I've heard that from our case counselors here. He gets embarrassed, but I've heard it about Matt, people he's helped out with. And it seems to be we're on that same mindset of it takes one person.
Yeah.
And continuing that through what you're doing is just incredible. So I just wanted to applaud you on that.
Well,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
guys.
We couldn't do it without obviously the right partnerships in play, and there's a lot of other individuals who are part of this that are kind of creating the exciting stuff that we're looking to really kind of put out in the world. So
And
we're
again,
hoping
we want to be ourselves. You
Yeah,
know?
that's
A lot of
the
people
first
get
step.
concerned with what everyone else is thinking all the time and
For
all that. And, you know, that's not going to be relatable.
No,
So
you don't make anything new with
money comes with good karma.
that. Yeah.
So,
that. Good people.
so
work,
I
good
have a
people.
rule. I don't work with people if I just don't take the job. The money will come. You don't need to. I don't chase anybody anymore. You know, the ego's gone. It's funny when you get older, you start learning that ego's a killer. You know, so
Oh, yeah.
money is ego driven. So
Without a
if you
doubt.
could just calm down, right? Because you know me,
Opportunities will
you know me
just
from the
float you.
past. I've always been an excitable individual.
You can get a
You know,
little combative as well.
I've always been a. My wife will tell you from 7th grade.
Tell
you know,
Frank, hey Frank, is he a
Hey,
little
yeah.
combative? Frank's
This is totally my project manager.
Yeah.
Wonderful man. Frank is a gentleman, and I learned tremendously from him. and how to be calm. Me and my, our background and whatnot is you working with men. It's just ego. You know, I remember my first day in the union. I walk on the job site, and it's yes sir, no sir. You're seeing guys that are making a lot of money, and they're all drinking at 9 a.m. Yeah. 9, 12. The union mentality is that I want to break. Yeah. Because that's why unions aren't succeeding, because they don't teach people how to be individuals.
There's that, and then with the workforce stuff we're rolling out, one of the lessons that we made it intentional to make is understanding success and understanding rejection. Because what a lot that chance that you give individuals, right? That only means something if they are not comparing themselves to where that person's making $150,000 cracking a cold one at 9 a.m. Mm-hmm. We deal with that a lot with our people, where especially with the youth. Someone will get a job and they're making 18, 19 an hour.
It's hard on them.
Awful. Because then they're scrolling through TikTok. There's some guy that's just making millions of dollars doing dances on
a
TikTok.
phone.
Yeah.
And
they see that, they're trying to compare.
Yeah, but that chance that you give is like what she said is exactly what we try to preach. But it's way easier for us to give someone that chance because we are built around that. And I think it's a completely different ballgame for you all to have taken that on in stride and to do that. Especially with I'm still blown away that was your first experience.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, that really is, right?
I never would have. I never knew
crazy.
That. Yeah. I thought we were introduction to.
No, that was.
Because you had mentioned rapid one time.
Our focus has just been so far out here. It's almost like it didn't happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because everything is tough in the moment, and you look up the mountain, you're like
tough for a little bit.
You gotta when you're looking up the mountain,
you
look ahead though. It's like one time I got one foot in front of the other. Yeah. And by the way, those kids that we just met, the way they look at you, you can see it. That's something special. Because I was standing behind you. I don't know if you saw that, but I was behind you, and I just see the way. His name was Sean, by the way.
Yeah, Sean.
And I don't know if I can say his name. I'm sorry. But,
no, he's on one. We have a podcast with him.
And I just saw the way he looked, and you said to him, you could smile. So I'm always. You can ask Frank. That's something big. You gotta get these kids out of they're kids. They're kids. They're 18 to 24, and they everybody has experiences. So if you could just be that person, though.
It's hilarious you brought that up. When we first opened that up, I was 22 at the time, and I have people in the house that are like older than me. I was very like, we gotta do this, like I know what I'm doing. Blah, blah, blah.
Drill the roost, yep.
So one of the girls that was living there, I've been working with for a few months prior in my navigational role. She just came to my office one day and she was like, hey, just being honest with you, you don't have to be a dick. We appreciate what y'all provide. We know that you want us to succeed. But it's also making your life way more miserable. Mm-hmm. And to hear that from someone and she was exiting an extremely traumatic situation. Mm-hmm. But to hear that perspective, it flipped everything I did. And so when I joke around or whatever, we've had partners come by, like the DA, and it smells like pot or whatever, and I get super concerned, and then someone walks by, it smells like Wiz Khalifa, and the DA is just looking at me like, "Is that?" And I'm like, what are you going to do? And he's like, I love that. Mm-hmm. But it always shocks me to hear people from the outside, because again, I think of these things as internal, and that's shame on me for doing so, but it's just my experience. A lot of my life has been professionalism, this and that, you got to be on the ball, but
it's not black and white.
No, and give them a damn break.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, just give them a shot,
You hit the nail on the head with it, and I love that, and especially with the young men that come through. It's been extremely beautiful to see that shell break open, and then when they become themselves and they aren't brought with negative energy, you don't shoot them down, you actually engage with it, and you meet them where they're at, and you love them where they're at. To see what that blossoms, Greg.
I love that saying, by the way. Love them where they're at.
Yeah.
It's a great saying.
Yeah.
You have to.
Now, Matt, you mind me if we ask them a question?
Shoot.
What brought you two into this world? If I know your answer, we were talking before because I asked you off camera. But.
I'll say it on camera. My brother knows. I have a brother, my older brother, not oldest, Sam, has schizophrenia. But at the time before he was diagnosed, was into drug usage, things like that. Ended up experiencing homelessness for around 6 years in a few different states. At one point, he was in Knoxville when I was in college, and I was bringing him, cigarettes and stuff, and he was very sick. But the reason I do this work is because one of the things that pissed me off the most during that time was I'd go sit at a doctor's office or the social work office, and I felt like we were a number on a sheet. And I'm here to get your bottom line pushed, and then when you're done with me, you're gonna go to the next person, and then you really don't get anything done. And to a point where I had checked in on him in Nashville, and we were paying a lot of money, not we, my parents, We're paying a lot of money for him to be in this beautiful program, blah, blah, blah. I show up, and it was the only thing I describe it as was like, it would have been better for him to be outside than what he was living in. I mean, like, totally backed up, trash stacked, roommate doing drugs openly, disgusting. And at that point in time, I was fed up. And I was a sophomore in college, left. But yeah, my North Star has always been, I'm like you. If I like can't be myself around you, then I'm probably not able to work with you, which is fine. Best of luck. But I can't operate in the world of like, I'm wearing this hat that day, this hat that. Like I'm either myself or we probably don't work together. And my goal has always been, I never want someone, I tell the people that move in there, I never want you to feel like you're in a program. The second that you feel like you're in a program, or the second that you feel like you are a small fact or something on a sheet or a number that we can go show donors to get more money, then I'm doing my job incorrectly. Because if I'm doing it correctly, you should come in here and you should feel like you're human, like you're seen, like you're heard, and like you're cared for. And as soon as that doesn't happen, we're doing our job incorrectly. But yeah, all of it's really due to my brother, and just seeing that struggle and being a part of that struggle. It lights that fire in you that pushes through those 16-hour days when we're doing warming centers, or really allows you to remain calm in really tough situations because it's for a greater purpose.
How's your brother doing? Can I ask a follow-up?
Tremendous, yeah. So he's on medication now, working for the city of Collierville, making a good chunk of change, live with the parents. He's really rebuilding his life.
Awesome.
But it's been amazing to see. And even the other day, he asked me, and he was like, "You got a really cool program." Because he still struggles to take in information and kind of like hold it. And I was like, "Yeah, man. Like I made that like when I wrote the program. Like I had you in my mind the entire time." And he was like, "What?" He's like shocked because like a lot of what he had gone through mentally, we block that out and we try to push forward. But like for him to realize that he played a large role, if not the entire reason why that place exists the way it exists. He had never like taken that in and realized it, but he's doing tremendous.
That's incredible, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I never get tired of the story.
Shout out Sam.
You're a good man, Matt.
Yeah, shout out.
Your turn.
I have a very different background compared to Matt, and honestly, a very different perspective when I came in, which I'm humble enough to say that I was ignorant beforehand. But to give backstory, I was offered this opportunity. I got my master's in poetry, which you can imagine. Where are we going with that?
You too, Brute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got my master's in poetry, and I knew these incredible people named Jared and Ellen, and they knew of me through another corporation that they have called Play Where You Stay, which is a nonprofit that helps inner city children be able to play soccer for free. I played soccer in college. So they gave me that opportunity from knowing me through that, and I'm beyond grateful. I've learned so much, but it was really a hard thing for me because different than I think the three of you, I grew up in a much rougher scenario. My biological father had a lot of drug issues, mental health issues, and he never sought help. And so I came into this, having that ignorant mindset sometimes about people who have not put themselves in situations, but might be in a situation and you have that connotation of, oh, well, you put yourself there. I had that because I had, a rough childhood, and I saw a lot of family members that weren't seeking help, in my opinion, because I was a kid, I didn't know. And so I came here, and it was a totally different, it was like going to school again. I was like, no, you don't know anything about any of this, about like what people come in here asking for, what they've been through, what they're trying to do. And I mean, going back to the design stuff, you have no idea all these people that are putting in the work to make everyone feel more comfortable and to open up their shell and to meet them at their level. So for me, it was one, very different because I have no case counseling background like Matt, like a lot of people here. I was a writer, I am a writer. That's my part here that I try to help play. And then on top of that, no one knew, but I came in, not really knowing what to expect because I had that negative situation growing up, and it totally changed my perspective, and I'm so grateful for it.
Awesome. Yeah. And how long you been?
This is like my 7th month.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Newbie.
Awesome.
Newbie.
I graduated in May with my master's, so it was like I looked a little bit, and then Jared and Ellen were like, come write some stories. And I was like, Thank God, writers
Awesome.
are struggling.
So you have a program here for them to write and journal, or
Well,
what's the approach? If
We're
you mind me
creating a
asking?
new approach.
yeah.
You're creating a program.
Yeah, so she does a lot of like big picture stuff. You could talk about it, but me and her working in conjunction right now with John for social media stuff like this. You know, like a lot of
Yeah, yeah.
Exposure stuff.
Creative. Yeah.
Exposure
Yeah.
and getting
Yeah.
people's stories out. And Matt, when he was at, which I'm sure they're still doing at Hub Hall, they have classes which offer poetry courses and
that, yeah.
so they can express themselves. The Hub Hotel here, they have artistic expression as well, where local artists will come in. We're very active in trying to get Memphis artists invested in what we're doing here because, I mean, they're local. It's the best situation
There's a
for
lot
us
of
to have.
artwork in this.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
a
it's
beautiful-
never ending. You can turn every
got
corner
works
and
here.
find artwork. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing too, and like this could be a cut line to why we're doing this podcast to begin with, but like a lot of the stuff that we see around homelessness is either like what I would call utilization of someone's struggle for monetary gain, which is the exact opposite of what we're trying to do. So like everything we're doing with John, long format, especially with interviewing clients and everything going through our programs, is like you're the voice. And I was quoted earlier. I don't think I made this quote, but if I did, great. But like our job is not to speak for people; it's to hand them the microphone.
Right.
And so when we began doing this long format work about a year and a half now, 2 years ago with John, me and him just kind of created the idea to do a podcast with our Hub Hall guests. Mia came in. We were doing more short-term content, and we always kind of were talking. And the idea came about to do a podcast with individuals like yourselves. Perspective. I think it's so interesting, especially now learning about that, the issue y'all first had with it, to see the turn that y'all have and to see the engagement has been beautiful to watch. But also there's countless other programs in this area that do tremendous work that we rely on. And I think that spotlighting them
Showcase them,
and
And connecting, like we were saying.
Exactly. And
Connecting us is
that's why we do
an
it.
accomplishment today alone.
yeah,
For sure.
that's why we're doing
And
it.
it was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, to build that bridge, because you
know.
hit the nail on the head. The issue with a lot of what social work is, which is there's a lot of people doing great work in separate areas. But what they don't realize is when you're a human, you need separate areas of help. So Joe going to get help for job development here, he also needs help getting an ID here. He also needs to get shelter here, and then mental health care here. These people should all be in conjunction with one another. And so bridging that gap, beautifying the partnerships we have. We couldn't exist if we didn't have people that we relied on every single day. Everyone that y'all just saw that was out there this morning that got referred out to a shelter or a treatment program or wherever they went, that's all because we have an amazing staff, but also because that staff is able to connect them to currently existing structures.
Right.
And so what I want to do here is highlight that. And I think y'all are a tremendous place to start because
And thank you, Steve, for all the work you do, man.
This is incredible on that, and just to showcase and the wins. Like I can't wait to see Greg's
This is a win
clips
today.
that he put together, and hopefully you can show that Greg clip to another individual
cut it
who's
in.
coming in a year
Oh,
from
yeah.
now and saying like, hey, like this kid was in your position. Now he is, he's got his own place, renting out here. He's working full time. He's got a kid here, and just show that actually progression. And he's wow, like it actually really is capable. It's not just some story that somebody's telling me. They see this actually short form or long form content,
Yeah.
and it really makes that.
It's
hit.
so. Sorry, go ahead.
So in the same way that you just said about Greg is what I want to do with what you do, because you have no idea how awesome it is to be able to go somewhere and be like, I literally housed an individual that has a background of burning down an apartment complex with a guy.
True that.
And to see them take that risk and like how much it's impacted you and how much it's changed you is another reason we
You should have
want
an
to do
open
this.
house of landlords to come here and hey, listen, if you have some housing units,
Great
like
idea.
come on in here, walk through our facility, see it through the lens that we're seeing it, and I guarantee you there'll be a different perspective after you're looking, touching, feeling, and seeing all this, and hopefully that'll
This is
assist with
Steve's
housing
gift,
units.
by the way. Like just your mind and connecting people is tremendous. Because he's had other ideas about networking on the island. You just have a vision,
Yeah.
And
Yeah, vision.
sometimes it's just like it blows my mind, to be honest with
Awesome.
you.
We are grateful to be a part of this, and
Oh.
I think I teared up when
Yeah.
about a couple months ago. We were on that Zoom call with
Yeah,
everybody
man.
talking
Yeah.
about what we can do, and it's so
Yeah.
powerful to legitimately be able to not just talk about it, put like today in motion. Like we got in the car, Sean and I looked at each other like, whoa. Like, look at everybody here today. Look what we're creating.
We didn't even speak for like 2 minutes,
And yeah,
Well,
it's
it's
just-
which is hard for us because we like to talk, But
It's
but we just sat there. I was like, man, this is just wild.
it's awesome.
It's
Like,
just, y'all
You
are
can see
yin
it.
and yang.
You can see. But we can take action though. Like we can make this happen together. And when Jerry came and was open to it, I could see it in his face right away. and then just the other two individuals, like you see everybody's minds starting to click, and I'm like, did you do this?
We
like,
all
you
did it, man.
did this,
It's,
dude?
it's everybody.
It's like the
And
final
I'm
puzzle
like,
piece
this
dropping
is
in.
really gonna.
And that's why it would be, going back to, complimenting you guys again, it would be so easy to be like, Memphis is growing. I'm seeing money there. I'm going to purchase some things,
that's huge.
and I'm never going to visit because I have no interest.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that could be your perspective, but y'all came here and you're telling your stories. And then on top of that, like we all talked about, it's so multifaceted. You have no idea like whose mind you're going to change with these kind of conversations.
Yep.
Go ahead. Sorry.
And like you guys said, like 80%, you know, is it 80% of
What?
purchases? Or I think it was Jay that was telling me this. Like, it's extremely investor heavy here.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Oh,
Yeah.
Or maybe, so
50%
maybe
are
it was
owner
from Mid South.
occupied.
Our property management company does a fantastic job that we connected together today. But investors don't come here. You know,
Yeah, right.
They're all
That's what I'm
remote.
saying.
They can't see the little nicks and knacks here. They can't. If you're not, you got to be here.
Yeah.
Feel the
know?
culture.
So, and we weren't sure what direction it was going to be. This is it's just growing. You
Yeah.
know,
Sure.
it's
We have a
growing and
different
it's
model coming
exciting.
out
And,
here, and just it's
and we have the
evolved.
means to do it. And then when you feel that energy, it's hard to not want to come back and
Yeah.
and be a part of that. You know,
Yeah, that's what we try to
it's
do.
weird. So it's just
It's fun.
It's fun.
We need more fun time out here. Every time we're out
Yeah.
here, we both got our full-time jobs back home, so it's like 2.5 days of
Yeah,
where's
dude,
our
I was gonna
itinerary.
say-
Every single get in the car. This
You gave
12
us 3 hours of your time today. It's huge.
I literally told you, I was like, I literally have that day blocked out
Yeah.
from like 1 to
Yeah.
5.
I keep asking people, I'm like, am I taking too much of your time right now?
No,
You know,
because,
so-
again, y'all are doing y'all are helping
this
us
is
with
massive,
this.
yeah.
This is massive. That never once bothering, and I almost feel bad because you've been here like multiple times. Like I gotta buy you a beer or something.
Well,
Next
we
time
missed
you're
the
in
boat. The Knicks were playing the
We
Grizz
did miss the
last
boat.
night, and
We wanna
literally
do
none
stuff.
of us had the
Do you
foresight
golf?
to look in
I'm an
online.
idiot.
We could all been at
I got
the
offered
FedEx
tickets.
Forum.
I got
We
offered
could've been
tickets to
there.
that game.
And the Knicks won, by the way. They're a nice little
they had a great
W.
game.
But like, how do we not even look
Okay,
at
do
it?
you
See, we're
golf?
so like laser focused. We need a
Oh,
week
there we
of
go.
fun out
Okay.
here.
Yeah.
Then
I
that's
mean, I'm
my
a golf
style.
guy.
I'm
but-
a big. Shout out to my project manager Frank. He ruined my life. 7 months ago, he
Get him
introduced me to the
golfing.
game of golf. I cannot stop
Get
thinking
enough?
about it.
Oh.
It's insane.
Wow.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
we'll get around it next time.
That'd be awesome.
I drink in
That'd
the
be
cart
awesome.
and I just play music.
That's
That's my role in the
There
in
you go.
golfing.
That's, all you- that's half the battle. To be
You
honest
guys
with
can just do the cart. We'll go.
Done
Yeah,
deal.
the cart.
Just follow us.
Love
You
the
know.
It's beautiful. Well, do y'all have anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
Just
wanna say thank you.
eternal thank you to everybody who's a part of this, and this is the absolute beginning of where we're gonna get to, and I look forward
Honestly, just real quick, I just want to say thank you to Jared for being open to the
Absolutely.
discussion. Because you know, to spearhead something new like this that there's no blueprint for. Again, business minds, you know, sometimes it's easy to just do the same thing, rinse and repeat. You know, so this is outside the box what we're working on here.
Correct.
So thank you, Jared, for being open to this.
to.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's his wheelhouse. Jared.
Oh,
Jared,
yeah.
Jared prefers no blueprint.
Outside of the box. That's it.
He's allergic to thinking.
Yeah.
I like that.
That should be
He's
well.
amazing. Well,
We love you guys. Thank you.
love y'all too. I
problem.
appreciate y'all for
Guys.
doing that.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Hey,
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
pleasure.
Thank you.
See, was that so bad?